It is still unclear why prosecutors took the death penalty off the table for Kohberger, a quadruple murderer with no clear motive or connection to his young victims. As Morgan Romero reports, we do know the death penalty remains controversial and a costly way to punish people in Idaho.
The death penalty is very expensive.
Robin Marr with the Death Penalty Information Center says along with saving victims' families from years of trauma and uncertainty, plea deals do, in fact, save taxpayers time and resources.
Every study that's been conducted has shown that it is more expensive to sentence someone to death and execute him than to incarcerate him for the rest of his natural life in a maximum security setting.
Why is the death penalty so much more expensive than life imprisonment?
Well, this is the most extreme sanction that we can impose on a human being. And so there are a lot of procedural safeguards that are involved in the process.
A DPI analysis shows most death penalty cases do not end up with someone actually being executed. Inmates sit on death row for years while their appeals play out. Judges often overturn their convictions or sentences. Idaho hasn't executed anyone in more than a decade. The Department of Correction tried to execute Idaho's longest-serving death row inmate Thomas Creech last year, but staff couldn't insert an IV line into him. And now, a judge has halted his sentence. Although, this year, the U.S. as a whole did see an uptick in executions.
The more meaningful evaluation of whether people are supporting use of the death penalty now and want it to continue are when we look at jury sentences. And juries are increasingly saying no to the death penalty.
Last spring, in the same Idaho courthouse where Kohberger has appeared, a jury said yes to the death penalty for Chad Daybell.
So pursuant to Idaho Code 192515, the court is directed that the defendant would be sentenced to death on those counts.
He was convicted of killing his first wife and two of his current wife's children. State prosecutors are also pursuing capital punishment in at least one other high-profile murder case. But if the death penalty isn't used for a man who brutally stabbed 4 college students to death, some question who the death penalty is meant for.
That's a great question. There is a lot of frustration sometimes when people see extreme crimes that don't end up in an expected death sentence, and other crimes that don't look like they merit a death sentence ending that way. It says something about how arbitrarily the death penalty is used, and that also creates a lot of public concern about its use.
Does this show that it's going to be unlikely that we're going to use it moving forward?
I don't think you can ever make that kind of prediction based on the outcome of a single case. What I think is really encouraging about the outcome here is that all the parties got together and made a good decision in the interests of everyone.